Thank you, Samir. You've heard from very eminent people who are much more knowledgeable than me about not just Manipur, but about how the country functions in general. I'll just speak on a limited aspect on the basis of my limited knowledge and experience. Of course, as General Chauhan pointed out, the history of this problem goes back several hundred years. Not this particular problem, but the problem of conflict in the Northeast in general and Manipur in particular goes back several hundred years, and there are many reasons, etc., for that. I can only say one thing in response to that. I don't want to go into any at any length on that issue. I just want to say that I feel I have always been of the view that one of the things that we need across the country is decentralization of power. So greater autonomy to the different states, greater autonomy to the different regions within states, etc. But every state, every region, every ethnic group has to act within the bounds of the Constitution. So the Constitution and all the rights and values enshrined in the Constitution have to be accepted and indeed imposed on everybody. No tribe, no ethnic group can say that we will not go on the basis of the Constitution. While of course we should have as much decentralization of power as possible, but everybody has to act within the bounds of the Constitution. So this is a general principle that I have always believed, and I feel that if that was applied. The other thing that I have always believed is that these national boundaries that have been carved across the world, they are largely artificial and they need to be done away with. Of course, with sovereign national countries and sovereign national governments, it is not possible to do away with them right now, but I think that in the long run, we have to move towards a situation where these national boundaries dissolve. Coming to the problem that has arisen in the last 21 months in Manipur, you see, there may be historical reasons as to why it caught fire so quickly and so on and so forth, but there is no doubt whatsoever, as Mr. Pillai said, that this current problem and almost genocide was fueled firstly by the local chief minister, the Manipur chief minister and his cohorts trying to fuel. So it's a pattern that you will see in Manipur, which is part of a general pattern that we are seeing in this country as well, which is to divide and rule. So while you see at the national level an attempt by the BJP and their cohorts to polarize and divide the country between Hindus and Muslims, Hindus and Christians, Hindus and Sikhs, etc., and because they feel that if they just rely on the Hindu vote, by this dividing, they can rule the country if they succeed in getting Hindu votes. The same formula was attempted by this Biren Singh in Manipur. That is, divide the people broadly between Mitayas and Kukis. Mitayas being the majority population, and the way to divide them would, in his evil mind, was to fuel the insurgency, fuel the violence, create a totally chaotic, lawless situation, the same kind of thing that Netanyahu is doing in Israel. It's the mind of an evil person that you see in those tapes which have been leaked. In those tapes, he is boasting. This is a meeting that is happening in his office, in which several Mitai leaders are present, and he is boasting to them that he allowed these Mitai insurgents to get weapons from the armories of the state, that he protected them from being arrested by the central forces, etc., even from the Manipur police, etc. He is just boasting about how he has fueled the insurgency there. Now, it's quite remarkable that even after these tapes came out, of course, all these facts would have been known to the central government and the central leadership right from the beginning. In fact, one of the parts of the conversation which has leaked out, and these were recorded some more than 6 months ago, 8, 9, 10 months ago. When this chief minister, when this home minister came to Manipur, and he tells this, this fellow Biren Singh is boasting that the home minister came and he told me, "Oye, tum bam marta hai? Tum log bam marta hai?" And he said ki, I told him ki nahi, bam nahi marta hai, nahi marega. Lekin he says ki I told the police people and the insurgents, bam maro, lekin छुपा के. So he is openly boasting about how he has armed the rebels, armed the insurgents, how he has protected them, how he has even asked the state apparatus to use mortars, etc., against the Kuki population. This was known to the central government long ago, right from the beginning. But the question is, why did the central government allow this fellow who clearly, if there was ever a case for imposing president's rule or for removing this man, this was it. You cannot have a person who is openly boasting that I have armed these rebels, I have allowed them to loot the armory, I have protected them from being arrested, etc., to continue as chief minister. And yet he was allowed to continue. And this shows the failure. He was allowed to continue for 21 months until finally a report of Truth Labs, which is by far the most credible forensic laboratory in the country, more credible than any central scientific forensic laboratory. In fact, the CFSL labs consult Truth Labs for difficult cases. The CBI has consulted them, the courts have consulted them, everybody. And they gave a very detailed report that yes, this is his voice. This is the voice of Biren Singh, who's boasting about all these things. And then they realized that it has become untenable for them to continue with this man. But you see, this shows the failure of all our institutions at several levels. Which were the institutions which should have acted long ago? Firstly, the governor. The governor should have immediately recommended that this is a fit case where the government of the state cannot be run in accordance with the constitution. Then the central government should have immediately either removed him or imposed president's rule. But why was the central? Of course, the governor, we all know, are just pawns in the hands of the central government. This BJP government has reduced virtually every institution, and in particular governors, to just pawns in their hands. Even this vice president or the speaker are just pawns in their hands. These are supposed to be constitutional authorities, but they are pawns in the hands of the central government. And why was the central government so keen to retain this man? Firstly, because he was playing to the same playbook, and as Mr. Pillai said, he was not he was not merely dividing the Mitais and the Kukis, he was also dividing Hindus and Christians there. And this was the playbook that the central government plays with. This is the playbook that they have been playing with across the country for the last 10 years. They feel that this is the only way for them to retain power in this country, to divide and rule. So, this was one reason. But the other reason also Mr. Pillai mentioned. Manipur is an important center of drug trade and drug smuggling in this country. And it is widely believed that Mr. Biren Singh is directly involved in this drug trade. In fact, one of his former ADGPs said so openly, one lady, in an interview. Now, and it is also widely believed that Biren Singh has been using the money that he is generating through this drug trade and drug smuggling to pay off people in the central government who have therefore been protecting him. There is also a failure of the judiciary in this. Judiciary is the next most important, actually it is the most important institution in this country to ensure the rule of law, to ensure that every institution functions within the bounds of its powers, and to ensure that every institution acts. This case was before the Supreme Court since August, or even earlier, since May 2023. It was absolutely crystal clear that the rule of law had collapsed and that the state government, it was absolutely crystal clear to the Supreme Court that the rule of law in Manipur had completely collapsed and that the chief minister there was running a rogue regime, absolutely criminal regime. And yet the Supreme Court did not act, did not do anything other than appointing some committees, etc., which did nothing, which just twiddled their thumbs and did nothing. It didn't even bother to ask what this Judicial Commission had done for so many years. It didn't bother to ask what happened or to even try and find out how these arms came to be looted from the armories of the state. Nothing. Ultimately, of course, in this case, when we went with these tapes of this Biren Singh, the court said, give us some evidence to show that these tapes are genuine. Then we sent the tapes to this Truth Labs, which gave a detailed 25-page report after doing a very elaborate forensic analysis, saying that yes, this is his voice. And the tapes are without a break. The relevant part of the conversations are without a break. Only then it became untenable for them to continue with this man. And it also shows the failure of the media to a very large extent. Of course, media has also a handicap. Manipur has been made into a completely lawless state. It's like the Wild West. And it's difficult for any honest, independent media person or journalist to operate from Manipur. It's become very difficult. So therefore, it's not easy. But of course, the problem also is that most of the media has been reduced to what is called the Godi media, which sits in the lap of the government and does exactly what the government wants. Most of the mainstream media doesn't function as media anymore, as independent media anymore. So therefore, Manipur is a stark example of how it shows the failure of every regulatory institution in this country. How this central government has subverted virtually every regulatory institution in this country and has reduced this country into almost the Wild West where anything goes, anything can be done to anybody, particularly the minorities, nobody will be held accountable, etc. Of course, this Biren Singh has been asked to resign. He is gone now. Perhaps they did so thinking that they'll make him governor, so he will enjoy some kind of immunity from prosecution. But it is absolutely essential that he be made accountable. Such a mass murderer and criminal cannot be allowed to get away without scot-free, without any accountability. That's all that I wanted to say. Thank you very much.